Alright, so it's snowing at the build site today, so we're going to make a video. And today we're going to talk about where did the founding fathers get their ideas for freedom. And that's a big subject. We can't cover all of it today, but we're going to talk about the history of these ideas and how in England they progressed. And so the idea of rights and freedoms has been around for a really long time. It's been around for over 1,000 years in merry old England, long before William the Conqueror came. The English nobility had some rights, and the king had to respect the rights of the nobles. They still had a king; he was still very powerful, but even back then, there were some rights that were granted to the nobility. And when William the Conqueror came, that went away. He established his own nobility and set himself up as an absolute ruler, where the king could overrule the nobles. Well, that system lasted for a while, but the idea of freedom was still there until in 1215 the nobles, the lesser nobles, also known as the barons, decided that they would band together and oppose the king, who at that time was King John the First. That's the same John that they have in Robin Hood. King John the First, also known as John the Worst, was not very popular with the nobles at all. They hated him. He was oppressive, and so they forced him to sign a letter called the Magna Carta, or the Great Letter, that would give the nobles some rights. They were limited rights, but even then it was more rights than they had before. And so the pendulum of history was swinging from complete authoritarian rule towards some rights for some people. The Magna Carta didn't last very long. It was abolished, and then it was put back, and then it was abolished, and later the ideas from the Magna Carta would be enshrined in the English Bill of Rights, but that wasn't for a few hundred years. Eventually they established the Parliament, where the lords and the nobles could form laws in a body, and the king had to respect those laws. So there was a compromise between rule by the people and rule by the king inside of Parliament. And so the pendulum of history was swinging towards more rights again, more rights for more people. Charles the First, King of England, decided that he didn't like that. He thought the king should be the absolute ruler of England, complete authoritarian rule. And so he disbanded the Parliament and sent them home. There's more to the story than that, but that is how the English Civil War got started, where after Charles disbanded Parliament, Parliament formed an army, and they went to go and fight the king for their right to exist as a body. The king formed his army, and they fought for many years, starting in 1642. This is where Oliver Cromwell famously defeated Charles I with his new model army and established the Commonwealth of England without a king. England got rid of its king in 1650-something. They were a commonwealth without a king, ruled by a parliament that was represented by the people. Doesn't that sound interesting? That's very much like what our founding fathers created. Of course, that only lasted for about 10 years, and then the people decided they wanted a king again, and the pendulum of history swung from rule by the people back towards rule by the king. And so they brought in, I think it was James the First. Could be wrong, but I think it was King James. Anyway, they brought him in, and England was back under the rule of a king, but they would always maintain a parliament that would share power with the king. Though many people in England thought that they needed to secure rights for the people. One of the most prominent voices for this was John Locke. John Locke was instrumental in forming the English Bill of Rights in 1689. And the English Bill of Rights enshrined certain rights for the people, including a right to keep and bear arms. So you can see the ideas that our founding fathers had in forming our country were nothing new. They weren't even revolutionary. They were really just another step in this process of creating rights. So from 1689 to 1776 um, was only, about 100 years. So the ideas of the English Bill of Rights were still fresh in the minds of our founding fathers. You might even say they were the most English of the English because they were the ones who were pushing for more freedom for more people. And the American War for Independence, the establishment of the United States of America, that was just the next great leap forward in securing more rights for more people and helping to form a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, where the idea of having a king or an authoritarian ruler was gone forever. So, um, the ideas of the American Revolution were amazing, but they were really the next leap forward. And I think that we're on the cusp of the next leap forward for us. There have been other leaps. The civil rights movement was a big leap forward. Now it's time for us to have another leap forward because in our day the pendulum has swung again to a point where we are having more authoritarianism, more centralized, strong rule by the government than we've had in a long time. And so, just as in all these other instances where the pendulum swung again towards freedom, it's time for that to happen again. So, thanks for listening. Let me know down in the comments, what are you doing in your life to help us with this next great leap forward? See ya.